The Untold Story of the Protestant Reformation, Episode 8. We are in October/November of the year 1518. In this video, I will be discussing some of the details that I discussed in Episode 7. So I would encourage anyone who is watching this that has not watched Episode 7, the Diet of Augsburg, to stop watching this and go back and watch that one, because some of the things that I talk about will relate back to that diet. After his meeting with Cardinal Cajetan, Martin Luther wants a council to convene to settle the debate between him and the cardinal, settle the religious disputes. Unfortunately, it's a catch-22 for Martin because only the Pope can call a council. Meanwhile, remember when we were talking about Johan Eck challenging Martin Luther to a debate over the 95 Thesis? And Martin Luther's co-professor, Andreas Karlstadt, stepped in to steal the thunder and say he will debate Johan Eck. Well, the three men have been sparring in the presses for the last several months, and the debate is scheduled now. It's scheduled for next summer, the summer of 1519, and it will be held in Leipzig, a portion of Saxony that is not owned by Frederick the Wise, but his cousin, Duke George the Bearded. And I told you before that I would explain to you why Johan Eck is so famous among the intellectual community. So let me do that now. Back in the year 1514, the professors at Nuremberg University have taken issue with Jacob Fugger. And I know I keep bringing this guy's name up, but he's such a key figure in the story of the Protestant Reformation and history overall. Jacob Fugger gives way to modern economies and capitalism. And what do the theologians at Nuremberg have a problem with? Well, it's Jacob Fugger's business practices, specifically usury, or charging interest on loans. The theologians are using the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6, verse 33, 32 through 35, where Jesus says, "Lend to others and expect nothing in return." They call for the Pope to issue a decree saying that lending with interest should be outlawed. And feeling the strain, Jacob Fugger calls for a debate. And who does he hire on his side but Johan Eck to defend lending with interest? And it's an extremely risky move for Eck, because it clearly does state in the Bible that you should not lend expecting anything in return. And if Johan Eck loses this debate, what happens to his reputation, and more importantly, what happens to Fugger's banking business? Also, Fugger is not the only bank in Germany. There were three other major bankers that lived also in Augsburg, so they have stake in the debate as well. When it came time to pick a location for the debate, no one wanted anything to do with it. Not Nuremberg University, not Augsburg University. They eventually chose a location outside of Germany, in Italy. But that got wiped away too. Ultimately, Jacob Fugger used his ties with the papacy to get Pope Leo X to issue a decree or a papal bull saying that lending with interest is allowed because the lender assumes risk himself. That decision is a classic textbook example over disputes between Protestants and Catholics in doctrine. Sola Scriptura versus Papal Authority. Exactly what Cardinal Cajetan and Martin Luther were debating over. Does the Pope have the authority to override Scripture? And here's the implications. If Pope Leo X does not issue that papal bull allowing for loans with interest, capitalism and our modern economy do not emerge. If you would like to know what our society would look like if Martin Luther and the Reformers got their way with Scripture alone, just take a look at the Amish country. Take a look at the Mennonites. They're staunch believers in Bible alone. They don't believe in lending with interest. That's why there's no shopping malls, there's no restaurants, there's no car dealers, there's no commercialism because there's no business loans. So if you like your home, your car, truck, or SUV, you like your credit cards, you like shopping, and you like taking the family out to Chili's on Friday night, then thank Pope Leo, Jacob Fugger, Johan Eck, and the Catholic Church, because they believed that the Bible was written 2,000 years ago and may need to be checked for changes in society and culture. Now, one last thing that I forgot to mention in the last episode regarding the Diet of Augsburg. Neither Maximilian I, the Holy Roman Emperor, nor Jacob Fugger met Martin Luther. And remember, Martin Luther's debate with Cardinal Cajetan went for 3 days at Jacob Fugger's house. Why do I mention this? Well, it's because we've been given this illusion that after 1 year of posting the 95 Theses, Martin Luther is supposedly a famous figure throughout Germany. And yet, 2 of his contemporaries, the Holy Roman Emperor and Jacob Fugger, never even bothered to meet him. So how famous was he? As one historian put it in a book that I read, the reason Jacob Fugger never met him at his house is because Martin Luther was an obscure figure.